It was a fiery clash that stunned the GB News studio. Liberal Democrat leader Sir Ed Davey squared off against furious critics after his dramatic boycott of Donald Trump's upcoming state banquet. What began as a tense exchange quickly spiraled into a blistering confrontation filled with accusations of hypocrisy, dishonesty, and political theater. Davey insisted he was taking a moral stand over Gaza, while opponents branded him a gesture politician who had disrespected the king. Voices rose, tempers flared, and by the end, the studio was left reeling in shock. Watch the clip.
Did you know over 95% of our viewers aren't subscribed? Subscribing is free and helps us create more great content. Hit subscribe now and join our community.
That Hamas outrageously took. This has to end. We need the ceasefire, we need the hostages out, we need the aid in. And there is one man who has the power to do that, and that's Donald Trump. He could pick up the phone today, talk to Netanyahu, the Prime Minister of Israel, get him to act and do the right thing. He could also pick up the phone to the Qatari government, the Gulf states, and get them to put pressure on Hamas to release the hostages. So what I wanted to do by this decision, which, as I say, was very difficult, was to highlight the fact that Donald Trump coming to our country is the one man who can bring an end to all this. And our media, yourselves, and the government, and frankly, the British public need to make that clear to Donald Trump. He has to act to end this humanitarian crisis.
Are you making it clear, though, by staying away from the state banquet? I mean, as a leader of a political party in this country, why would you not use the opportunity to try and persuade Donald Trump, to try and get him to listen to you? I mean, the Conservatives reacting to you boycotting the state banquet, saying it's an act of deep disrespect to the king, and Dame Priti Patel saying that Ed Davey has once again proved he's not a serious leader and more interested in pathetic gesture politics. What do you have to say to that?
Well, I take the Conservatives more seriously if they stood up to Donald Trump and called out Netanyahu over what's happening in Gaza, and they have failed to do so. I've had the honour, Ellie, of going to a number of state banquets in the past, and therefore I have the experience and the reality that you don't get to talk to the head of state, and you don't get to even talk to some of his close entourage. So your ability to make any influence actually at the banquet is nil. But by coming on your programme, going on and talk to other media, writing articles, I think I can raise this subject to make sure that Donald Trump is reminded of his responsibility, is told that the British people want him to act to save the lives of those children and women and innocent civilians who are starving to death in Gaza, and to get those poor hostages out. And, you know, genuinely, he's the one man who can do this. You know,
well, forgive me. Forgive me. I mean, I know
doing enough, but I do think that Trump can do more.
I mean, look, maybe he could. Maybe he could do more, but it's a bit simplistic, isn't it? When we know how embedded this problem is, we know how determined Netanyahu and his sort of coalition government is at the moment. The idea that Donald Trump could pick up the phone and just sort this out isn't actually realistic, is it?
It's totally realistic. Anyone who's looked at the situation in the Middle East over many years know it's the US president who has huge power. Even more so at the moment, actually. The Netanyahu government is facing a backlash amongst many Israelis who think its strategy threatens the lives of the hostages. So I think there's a real chance for the President of the United States to do the right thing. I'm afraid when I've listened to Donald Trump talking about this and talks about Gaza as a great real estate opportunity, it looks like the reverse. He sometimes says, you know, he regrets the killings. He does nothing about it. And, you know, I've always been pro-American. I see the US as our strongest ally. I believe in talking to people, including Donald Trump. But my chance as the leader of the Liberal Democrats at this moment is to send this message by not going to the banquet. So people like you are debating this, and we can debate it as a country, and we can put pressure on our Prime Minister to make it clear to President Trump on his state visit that this really needs to happen. You know, we're looking at the situation getting even worse Netanyahu is ordering his army, actually against the advice of his military experts, we're led to believe, into Gaza City, where there are 1 million Palestinians. They're going to be forcefully displaced. The crisis there is going to get worse. We have to act. There is a UN General Assembly going to discuss this later this month. I don't think we can wait. And when Donald Trump is in our country, I think it's incumbent on all of us to make it crystal clear to him that we expect him to act as the one person who could really influence both Netanyahu and the Qatari and Gulf states, and through them, Hamas. So that awful terrorist organisation has to release its hostages and has to surrender.
Can I ask you about the Lib Dems' stance on the use of asylum hotels? Because the Refugee Council this morning is calling on the Home Secretary to adopt what they're describing as a practical proposal. So they are talking about giving temporary legal status to migrants from 5 countries, those countries being Afghanistan, Eritrea, Iran, Sudan and Syria. So they currently make up about 4 in 10 of people that are housed in asylum hotels. By their calculations, they think by doing this, the Home Office could end the use of asylum hotels by March of next year. What do you think of that as a plan? Is that something you'd be supportive of?
Yeah, I think it's a very good idea. Liberal Democrats have long argued that people waiting months and months for asylum applications, having to be housed in hotels at great expense to the taxpayer, should actually be asked to work. And therefore they, rather than costing us, can actually contribute to our economy and to the exchequer. It seems a sensible approach. Liberal Democrats have long argued that these asylum hotels are a sign of the mistakes of the Conservatives, the failure of the Conservatives over immigration. They, first of all, failed to process asylum applications quickly enough. Indeed, they deliberately created this backlog, which led to the hotels in the first place. The hotels are the Conservatives' fault. And then if we're going to now solve that and prevent that mistake going on and costing us all a fortune, I think things like not just processing the applications more quickly, but getting people to actually work and contribute seems a sensible way forward. It's not the only thing we need to do. We do need a lot of international cooperation. We've got to stop the small boats in the first place. But in terms of dealing with the asylum hotels, this is definitely one way we should look at.
Well, look, we're out of time, so I'm going to get told off. But just very briefly, the problem with that is surely that it's sort of saying it's open arms, isn't it? If you're from Afghanistan, Eritrea, Iran, Sudan, Syria, just come. You're going to be allowed to stay.
No, because it's temporary, and if they fail their asylum application, they'll be deported, as they should be. The truth is, the small boats is a sign of policy failure. The Conservatives to blame. Actually, Nigel Farage is to blame. You know, before we left the EU, before Brexit, we had a returns agreement with every European country, which meant we could, through the Dublin Convention, automatically return people on small boats. And now that was broken. We don't have that legal power anymore, and the French and others have made it very difficult for us to return these people in small boats. It's got far, far worse. We didn't have this problem before Brexit. So I think Nigel Farage, who's been very vocal, hasn't he, over the summer, should start with an apology, and the Conservatives should apologise. They caused this problem. They have wasted billions of pounds, and all these people protesting, they should be protesting at Nigel Farage and the Conservatives who caused this chaos.
Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to Next UK, your go-to for real stories and sharp analysis.